What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the recording. It's another day in another weird lawsuit going after Black Rifle Coffee Company. Now, full disclosure, obviously, I have a coffee company, but I don't view Black Rifle as a competitor. They are so massive. I mean, they're publicly traded. I'm not eating any of their lunch. So, and I also want to say that the owners of this company have always been really nice to me. They've connected me with people in the industry, things of that nature, and that these are just, of course, allegations. But it also goes towards kind of a bigger issue going on in the space, apparently. And this is kind of a weird one. So here's a current lawsuit. Which says here, Evan Hafer, what's going on at Black Rifle Coffee? I wonder why they're not. I've been seeing this more on Twitter. Is it that it's broken? Your accountant outdueled you in a competition, so you proceeded to try to humiliate him because he's a Mormon with more moderate attitude towards hooking up. This is, I mean, Black Rifle Coffee has innumerable lawsuits against them. And you wonder exactly kind of what's driving it. You know, it seems like, a lot of people that I really respect have backed them, and stick by them. And so that kind of holds a lot of weight with me. But if you remember, essentially, where all of this started, we're kind of the golden boy of non-leftist coffee. They did an interview with the New York Times. And in that interview, they said some heinous things. The way they were worded came across as like, hey, half our customers are, bad guys from WW2 and all this kind of stuff. You see, it was a mistake for anyone who considers themselves conservative to give access to the New York Times. Their words will be twisted and taken out of context. New York Times is not a news organization. They are part of the propaganda machine. You see, Zengerli, the writer, goes out of the way to identify Hafer as Jewish. He writes this paragraph, which seems misleading at best. I would never want my brand to be represented in that way, shape, or form, Hafer said, because that's not me. And yet Black Rifle has made conspicuously little public effort to separate itself from Munchel. I don't know who that is. This is a sharp departure from its handling of the Kyle Rittenhouse incident. Following pressure from the company, Schaefer deleted his tweets, and Hafer released a video statement in which he clarified that while Black Rifle believed in the Constitution and the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, and that a person is innocent until proven guilty, the company didn't sponsor Rittenhouse. We're not in the business of profiting from tragedy. Now, if you remember, there was this situation where Kyle was out on bail, I believe, and he was pictured in a Black Rifle t-shirt or a Black Rifle hat or something like that, I remember. And Black Rifle Coffee immediately came out to disavow him. In fact, I don't even think they called him by name and said, hey, this is, the Kenosha boy or something like that. They have seemingly have since mended fences with Kyle, but it really pissed off their customer base. I mean, this is Black Rifle Coffee. You're like, 2A, all this kind of stuff. And I think what's interesting here is the way these two paragraphs also were worded. You can't let sections of your customers hijack your brand and say, this is who you are, Best told me. It's not like, no, we define that. The Rittenhouse episode may have cost the company thousands of customers, but Hafer believed it also allowed Black Rifle Coffee to draw a line in the sand. It's such a repugnant group of people, Hafer said. It's like the worst in American society. I've got to flush the toilet of some of these people that kind of hijack portions of the brand. Then again, what Hafer insisted was a super clear delineation was not clear to everyone because, well, it was weird. And he said, the racism stuff really pisses me off, Hafer said. I hate this proud boyish people. Like, I'll pay them to leave my customer base. I'll gladly chop off all those people out of my effing customer base and pay them to get the F out. If that was the case, I asked, had Black Rifle, which sells a thin blue line coffee, considered changing the name of its Beyond Black Coffee, a dark roast it has sold for years, to Beyond Black Lives Matter? Surely that would alienate the racist polluting its customer base. This is, I mean, this moment in time when Black Rifle Coffee kind of, really had some cracks showing of where they were getting really big and they were doing interviews and pissing off their customers. It inspired me to start Coffee Brand Coffee. Like, the whole reason I started this company is, you'll notice, like, literally down to the brand, it's 001, 002. I have all of the same more delicious and more freshly roasted options, in my opinion. And we're growing fast. Promo code The Quartering to save if you want. We're growing super fast. And I think it's because we stay out of the political stuff. If you jump into the politics stuff, okay, if you jump into that pool, you can get a ton of money really fast. There were even coffee companies that opened up that were like, I think there was one literally called Coffee Coffee, something like along that lines. They probably sold a bunch right away, but where are they today? That's why I started Coffee Brand Coffee. Now, Black Rifle Coffee is essentially a merch company that also sells coffee. I see their stuff everywhere, and they're super successful in that. That's why I want to work hard I've got some new merch coming out from my coffee company, but this stuff though is a little bizarre. So here's a lawsuit that says, this is the form. Actually, I can just pull up the actual lawsuit. This is Mr. Roper is a male, resides in Salt Lake County of Utah. He's former employee of BRCC. BRCC is a foreign limited liability company doing business in Salt Lake City, Utah. Mr. Hafer is an individual who is employed by BRCC as its CEO. So here are the claims. On July 17th, back to 2016, now this is a brand new, or this just came to light. I don't know where this court case is. This isn't, maybe it's dated at the end, but this kind of just popped out. I don't know when this is. This is dated 6/29. Interesting. So we have an ex-employee here, and it says he started working there on July 17th, 2016. On July 30th, Mr. Hafer and Mr. Roper competed in a marksmanship match at Wasatch Wing and Clay Range. Mr. Roper had taken first place in the competition. Mr. Hafer was very angry that Mr. Roper had beaten him. Mr. Hafer expressed his anger to Roper, and this is when Mr. Hafer began to treat Mr. Roper in an extremely hostile and domineering manner. It happened within 2 weeks. Mr. Hafer felt like his reputation as an excellent marksman among the Military Special Forces community was threatened by Mr. Roper when other military competitions heard the results. Early in 2016, Mr. Roper was forced to strip down and participate in a marketing video where his image was digitally altered to look like he was completely in his birthday suit. Mr. Roper was not given a proper opportunity to refuse to participate in this video, and he felt like had he refused to participate, he would have lost his job. You didn't have to participate. And I don't think being like entry-level BRCC employee is... These lawsuits are weird. Just another bizarre lawsuit. In the video, he's asked to pretend to do sit-ups in a room with various other men who are allegedly having a hot dog party. The video was meant to poke fun at the LGBTQ, and Mr. Roper participated in that video against his will and as a condition of his employment. The video had been seen by thousands of people on the internet, much to Mr. Roper's embarrassment and humiliation. I mean, on or about August 15th, Evan Hafer called Roper into his office. In front of Mr. Roper and several other people in the office, Mr. Hafer took off all his clothes and stood in front of Mr. Roper completely... What? What? This is so wild, it has to be true. So he's wearing absolutely nothing. Then Mr. Hafer acted as if he had expected some sort of response from Mr. Roper. Instead, Mr. Roper averted his eyes and tried to turn the conversation back to work. Why did he take up? What happened here? Several days later, Mr. Roper and Mr. Hafer were working alone in the conference room when Mr. Hafer turned to Mr. Roper and said, "Why don't we close that door and butt F this S out of each other?" What? Mr. Roper rejected the proposition, and the meeting continued in awkward tension. What's happening? What's happening at Black Rifle Coffee? Now, maybe this was just a bad joke. Maybe this was just a bad joke. After Mr. Roper had rejected Mr. Hafer's advances and failed to comment upon Mr. Hafer's nude body, Mr. Hafer became openly hostile to Mr. Roper. By approximately early 2016, Mr. Hafer had been calling Mr. Roper a mountain Jew. I've never even heard of that. As a derogatory term because he was one of the few LDS in the office. Oh, he's a Mormon, so he called him a mountain Jew? It sounds funny. I've never even heard of it. Mr. Hafer started being very mean and hateful towards Roper in front of other employees. On the 21st at 8 a.m., Mr. Roper participated in a three-way call with Chief Operating Officer Rod Rudd, himself, and Mr. Hafer. In this call, Mr. Roper told Mr. Rudd and Mr. Hafer that he was concerned with the way he was being treated and that he demanded he be treated more professionally and respectfully. Mr. Hafer became very angry and said, "Roger that," to Roper and warned him that if he said one more word that he would be terminated on the spot. Mr. Roper saw an increase in Mr. Hafer's hostility towards him from that day forward. In early November, Roper was tasked with developing an HR department for BRCC. His role as HR manager, Mr. Roper spoke with many new employees who complained about being on the receiving end of bad behavior and complained that Mr. Hafer and others in middle and upper management were using military-style management model, which was replete with harassment and racism. No examples, though. On or about the middle of November 2016, Mr. Roper reported to Mr. Rudd and Mr. Hafer that the company was at risk because of the work environment that Mr. Hafer had created. Mr. Rudd agreed with Mr. Roper, but rather than change his behavior, Mr. Hafer asked Mr. Roper, as Human Resource Director, to contact BRCC's attorney and have her draft an employee contract that allows me to do whatever the F I want to an employee without being sued. Mr. Roper contacted the attorney with Hafer's request, and the attorney said that wasn't possible. Still, Mr. Hafer continued to harass Roper. Sounds like he didn't like him. I don't know the idea that about the, getting into your birthday suit. What is this? While at the strip club, Mr. Bollinger was not satisfied with Mr. Roper simply being in the club, but insisted he paying for him to have a private dance. Mr. Roper was humiliated and embarrassed, didn't want to be seen as more of an outsider than he was, so he endured the events. Oh, lap dance is so awful. Then on February 17, 2017, Matt Best, owner of BRCC, openly teased Mr. Roper because he had never taken the dirt road with a woman. Why are you even talking about this stuff at work? This is a wild lawsuit. This is wild. Now, the money for judgment entered for Mr. Roper, he wants a money judgment entered in the favor of all this other kind of stuff. These things never really say, he's got all sorts of exhibits in here too. Yikes. He's not asking for that much money, I guess. Consideration given in exchange for waiving rights to legal action. In consideration for Brendan's waiver, his rights to pursue legal action, Black Rifle Coffee agrees to immediately pay in full the following amounts. Reimbursement for the use of personal cell phone for 9 months of employment, that's $1,600. 9 months of personal vehicle use, $1,100. Unused vacation, 10 days. A settlement equal to 2 months gross wages. He's making $5,500 a month. That's pretty good money. $11,000. So they paid out his employment. Made it go away. Weird. I wonder why this is resurfacing now. Interesting. Well, yeah, maybe don't have your employees, maybe don't get undressed in front of your employees and do that kind of stuff. But there's a million of these spurious lawsuits against Black Rifle. There's even an article that's Black Rifle Company is being sued by an RTD beverage consultancy. This was a week ago because they're selling ready to drink coffee. There's like a magnet for lawsuits. This is more business lawsuit stuff. Harassing your Mormon employee, that's probably not good, but hey, Coffee Brand Coffee. If you're looking for, some coffee, Promo code the core and you're safe. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.